Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kryptonized. Joining Amanda and I today is John Koetsier, and we're going to talk about DeFi, one of our favorite subjects, and creator coins, and just some general questions about the crypto space from a fellow marketer and somebody that I've been following for quite some time. So before we jump in, John, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I write as a contributor for Forbes. I've been a journalist for, I guess, a little over a decade. I've always written. I'm a sci-fi author, and I consult with a lot of tech companies.
Wait a second. Sci-fi author. This is our second sci-fi author that's been on the show. What have you written books?
I've written a book. It's called No Other Gods. It's available on Amazon.
Wonderful. Well, we're showing it up on the screen right now. So if you're into sci-fi and crypto, which seems to be a common theme with our guests, then go check it out on Amazon. So, John, you've been in a lot of different things, but what drew you to the crypto space?
Honestly, I pushed it away as hard as I could for a very long time. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was crazy. I thought it was, math and numbers. And, look, I mean, I understood the value of gold. It was a resource. It was beautiful. You could use it for something. I understood the value of fiat currency because, some authority said that it was worth X or Y or whatever. And, basically governed that it was legal tender for some hundreds of millions of people or whatever the population of that country. And so I pushed it away as hard as I could and stupidly missed out on becoming a crypto billionaire. However, crypto didn't stop and it didn't end, and it kept pushing itself into my life. And I got a little bit of crypto probably for the first time maybe a decade ago. So promptly lost it.
What do you mean lost it? Like on a hard drive lost it? Or how do you
there's some of that. There's also just what the heck were my keys again? What are keys? How's that work? All that stuff, right? Because I mean, like, it's not like cash in your wallet and it's not like money in the bank account. So, but it kept pushing in. And lately, especially the last year, I've earned more from crypto than I've earned from all my consulting, probably 2 or 3x more.
Let's hope the IRS isn't listening.
Oh, they are. No worries. I'm in Canada. It's called Revenue Canada, and it all comes into my company, and I pay tax on it. Fully legal. All good. No worries.
All right. Are we in the fourth industrial revolution?
I suppose so. And we can talk about different ways of characterizing what we're in right now. Frankly, we're always in the future and we're always in the past because the inventions of the past are always with us and the inventions of the future are here but not widely distributed yet, right? Where I kind of sit on this, and all of us are specific people with specific purviews of what we see and what we care about, is how I've titled my creator coin, which is Dollar Smart, which is we are taking all of the matter all around us in our walls, in our windows, in our desks, in our hands, wherever it is, and we're making it smart. We're adding CPUs to it. We're adding chips to it. We're adding radios to it. We're adding sensors to them. We're adding ways for them to understand their environment, understand us, react, respond, and communicate. And that's the interesting thing about where we're going for me, is what percentage of matter that is human created is smart. And obviously it's very tiny right now. Is it 0.0000001%? But it's increasing exponentially. And we're seeing the arrival of ambient intelligence. So Amazon Echo, for instance, with Alexa, right? Well, that's disappearing. That's disappearing into our cars. Doesn't have to be a puck on your desk anymore. That can be built into something, built into a washing machine, built into a refrigerator, whatever. That's where I'm kind of focused. So AI, robotics, intelligence, and intelligence applied to the physical world is kind of where I'm focused.
And do you see crypto in that world?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, and there's crypto in that world because it's important for us as we live more and more virtual lives to be able to transact in that reality, in that space. I mean, I've interviewed lots of people about the metaverse, right? And you can say that we've been living in the metaverse for a couple decades now, because you can look at the web as sort of a 2D version of the metaverse, and we sometimes will go into 3D versions of the metaverse and multiple dimensional versions of the metaverse coming in the future as well, right? As we live in this increasingly digital world, stores of value and transactions have to change. And sure, fiat currency can be digital and will be digital. We see that in multiple nations growing increasingly. China is moving more strongly in that area as well. But everything from gems in some little mobile game is essentially a form of digital currency. right? And having ways of making that move flow beyond individual apps, beyond individual platforms, through all the digital ecosystems that we inhabit is kind of the role of crypto.
Can you just tell our viewers who don't know, what is a creator coin?
A creator coin, I mean, you can kind of think of it in the same vein as something like a Patreon, in the same vein as something, maybe even a Substack or something like that, right? A creator coin is a crypto that generally is convertible to mainline cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever, but you purchase off a platform. Mine is on Rally, which is an ERC20 coin on Ethereum, and you essentially buy into a creator's economy, maybe get special access to what they do, maybe get early access to what they do, maybe just support them, and other things like that. So I started that out. My friend Jeremiah Owang got me into that probably 6 months ago or something like that. And it's on Rally. It's Dollar Smart, SMRT. And it's been a pretty amazing journey. It's taught me a lot.
And tell us more about SmartCoin. What are some of the uses, benefits, rewards?
So one of the key ways that I talk about and investigate how we're making the world smart, how we're making matter smart, how everything is becoming smart, whether not just a phone or a laptop, is my Tech First podcast. And so you can sponsor Tech First with SmartCoin. In fact, that's the only way you can sponsor Tech First. You can get special access to a Slack channel where you can talk to me. We had so much trouble, Amanda, getting together because I get hundreds and hundreds of emails all the time and messages on social and everything like that. You can get special access to a Slack channel that is just sort of one-on-one, or 5, 10, 100 on ones type of thing. So I'll see that. And then there's just a supporter category as well, where you want to join in, go for it. There's also an NFT category with that. And so I've just started releasing. I released my first collection probably a month ago. It's sold out in about 5 days. And I'll be releasing an NFT collection that'll be one for each episode, which will be kind of cool, with something cool and unique about what relating to the topic of that episode very shortly. Cool.
So I know you just brought up NFTs, one of my favorite subjects. What do you feel NFTs need to, what are the characteristics of an NFT that will allow it to go mainstream, do you feel?
I don't know that any NFT has gone mainstream, and sometimes when I see the prices on them, I think NFTs are actually IQ tests.
I think so as well. Exactly my point. I mean, they don't do enough. I mean, you could literally just put up JPEGs and videos and call it an NFT, and people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. It's crazy money, crazy.
People are literally doing that. So Gary Vee, I mean, he literally released it, and it's literally scrawls on paper with a marker.
$64,000 is what.
One sold for over 400,000, I believe, or we're talking insane numbers, right?
It's insane.
In that case, the NFT it's a tulip bulb. It just is. Now, is there true rarity? Is there true quality in the NFT space? There's some of that. But it's such a burgeoning space right now that you can just get about anything in there. For me, what NFTs are cool for is a bunch of different things. One is participation. So much of what we have is digital these days. You go to a Zoom thing, you don't go to a conference, right? Remember when you get to a conference in the past, in the pre-COVID days, and you get a swag bag? Or you get the t-shirt, or you get the hat or something, right? You had the souvenir. It said, I was here. It was a memory of that. An NFT can do that. An NFT can do that for a meeting, right?
You don't pay $64,000 for it, though.
And not $64,000. No, unless, I don't know, maybe that's a meeting with some billionaire or something like that. I don't know. Or a star. But an NFT can do that. And it can also be the ticket to get in. If there is incredible art, amazing art that you really, really want to own, great. An NFT can do that. I'm much less sold on that because, frankly, any NFT that you've bought for $2 million, I can have a copy of. So if you want to claim, hey, you're the owner because it's in the blockchain and blah, blah, fine. I have a freaking copy in my cache, my browser cache, on my computer. So if you're crazy about that, great. But I think there's utility around there. And I think there's also utility around partial ownership of real world things that can be represented in NFTs. So there's some really interesting options there. I did like the Gucci NFT that sold for $2 million. That was sort of a video of this pretty cool dude in a suit. That was pretty, that was kind of neat. Is it $2 million worth? No, but it was kind of cool.
What do you think they need to be? What's NFT 2.0 look like? Is it programmatic? What do you think that's got to be to make it worth $2 million? I mean, if $2 million is what people are paying for NFTs, you better get $2 million worth of utility. That's my feeling on it. Now, people can look at artwork and they could say it's worth anything, right? So art plays in this different atmosphere. But for NFTs really to go mainstream, I think there's got to be a programmatic addition to it, or it's got to have more utility than just an artist's point of view. Because you could, like you said, it could be in your cash and you could print these things all day long.
Absolutely. And I mean, you see people releasing an NFT collection that's like literally 10,000 copies of the same thing, and is there real value there? No. Is there real utility there? No. So in terms of utility, I think there's going to be a baseline of NFTs that are from, $0 to maybe a couple $100 that have real utility that you use. And then there's going to be these wild and crazy ones that are for insane numbers that is the value there? Not in my opinion. But it operates on the greater fool premise of investing, right? If you can find the greater fool to buy it after you, then it's worth whatever somebody will pay.
There's a lot of fools out there. I think Amanda would agree because she's watching this like I am. I'm like, what is going on here? We should turn Kryptonite into.
I have to disagree. I mean, we just had Lynn Dye on, who I don't know if you're familiar with, is the owner of One Of. And I think NFTs are very interesting. I think they're saving the industry of artists, where you can almost like and he educated us yesterday on, similar to how you're verified on these social media platforms, you can verify an NFT so that there is no way of replicating it, but you can see who is the original owner. But you're also going to see in the future that an NFT can be used eventually as a ticket, whether it's in like a shoe or whatever it is, a concert ticket, but it will eventually be like that. So I think it's interesting.
I do think it's interesting as well. I 100% agree with you in that. If it's digital, however, it's inherently copyable, in my opinion. I stand to be proved wrong. If I can see it, I can take a picture of it. I mean, is that the big deal? Is that what matters? Probably not. But hey, let's just be honest. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of profit taking. Hey, more power to them. But there's also a lot of stupid money out there. And guess what? When you were an early adopter in crypto and you've got hundreds of ETH and maybe you've got hundreds of Bitcoin, it's easy to play around with stupid money. It doesn't feel real. So go for it. Try it. See what happens.
I mean, we could battle all day long with NFTs. I do think it's got to evolve even more. I mean, the real world example of NFT is a digital ticket to a sporting event, right? It's one of a kind. Only one can be used, and there's real utility there. You get to see something, and then that NFT is burned after that, essentially. But I think it could live on in other ways. But anyway, that's not the show for that. I know Amanda has talked about this with me. And what are your thoughts on China's ban of? It seems like they're banning Bitcoin every single year, and it only makes the price go up. But what's your thoughts around it?
I think it's wonderful news for the rest of the world.
Why is that?
I think that we're seeing amazingly interesting things happen with the two remaining global superpowers. One, we're seeing the U.S. over the past probably 4 to 6 years just totally be self-involved and have to battle continually internally and not be able to actually impact the world and grow the way that it should be able to. And two, we see China, which could have filled that void and could have done projected its power in amazing ways, shoot itself in the foot repeatedly by taking its tech industry down 5 or 6 notches, taking its high-flying tech companies and chopping them off at the knees, and banning crypto because guess what? Yes, it is a threat to a very closed system. It is a threat to a totalitarian system. And so what they're doing is they're saying, don't innovate too much in China. Don't get too big in China. Don't do too much that threatens the central government of China. And what they're doing is they're abandoning potential leadership positions that they could have taken if they had kept their path of opening, which if you look at it in the long term, of the past, let's say 3 to 4 decades, right? Who would have thought that China has become what it has become? China was incredibly closed, incredibly backward, incredibly poor, incredibly brutal. It's kept some of those things. There's still a lot of brutality there. But I visited China probably about 10 years ago, and it was easier to get into China than it was to get into most countries in Europe, about 10x easier than to get into the States, and about 100x easier than to get into Russia. And they opened up, and they saw huge wealth pour out of that. I mean, in the course of a generation or two, you went from villages to incredible, prosperous cities. Yeah, there was a lot of overbuilding. Yes, a ton of inflation. Yes, a lot of wastefulness, all that stuff. All kinds of issues, huge amounts of pollution, other things like that. But there was immense progress on some of those levels. Now we're seeing China saying, hey, you know what? The party matters. The government is the biggest energy center in this ecosystem, and everything must bow to that, and everything must support that. That's a great thing for the rest of the world, because it's going to massively slow down innovation. It's going to massively decrease the amount of wealth that Chinese companies could put towards external expansion, continued growth in multiple different areas. And it's going to open doors for other companies in other countries in more open regimes to take a leadership role, in my opinion.
All right. Amanda, any closing thoughts around that?
I think he hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, my thoughts on China are they always find a way to screw themselves up. If you look at history,
most countries do. It's in the nature of governments to do this.
Well, especially ones that are, they're not totalitarian, but let's face it, they're just communists. So they want to stay in power, and anything that threatens that power, they're going to do away with, even if it hurts them. And I think that's what's happening here. But whatever, we'll see what happens. I think this is a revolution that they're going to regret missing. Although it always seems to come back to them if you look at the history of it. But we'll see. I don't have a crystal ball here. But John,
most nations that call themselves communist aren't actually communist. What China has is not communism. It was initially. That was the intention. It's still got the name of that and everything like that. But you essentially have capitalism with Chinese characteristics, which is subsumed to a central government. And then, the sharing inherent in the term communism never seems to totally work out so well. It certainly gets shared to those in power, but maybe not to others as well. So, yes, interesting times.
It reminds me of I had a meeting with the government of Kolkata in India, who, if you don't know, yes, India is democratic, but Kolkata, the state, is communist. And all the things they were saying in the press were very communist. It looked like they were towing a communist type of party line, but behind the scenes, they were as capitalist as they come. Believe me, that government knows what they're doing. They say one thing in the press and do another thing behind the scenes. And I think that's probably what you're referring to in terms of how China operates as well.
One other topic I'd love to cover with you, John, is Web 3.0. And so what aspect of Web 3.0 are you most excited about?
I'm excited about smart contracts. I'm excited about the idea that you can set up ecosystems, potentially companies, frameworks with rules that enable behavior beyond a person or an organization being in control of something. Now, it's so early in this time, and we've seen continually and repeatedly lots of issues and errors there. We saw that recently with comp, right? Where they sent out, was it $90 million worth of comp to people incorrectly? I haven't heard if they got that back yet. I don't know if they got that back, if people sent it back or not. I'm not sure I would send it back if they sent me $25 million by accident. I could maybe donate that to charity or something. I don't know. But there's issues and errors with those. But the ability to set up an infrastructure that just runs, and players can come in and out, that's really interesting. Because if we look at the ways that we've organized ourselves historically, hundreds of years ago, you couldn't have huge, big organizations easily, right? You had nation states, absolutely. But in terms of companies, you had maybe the East India Company in England, in Britain, that was fairly large, fairly distributed. It was very hard to have command and control over time and space. Now you can do that. In fact, the 18th, 19th century, especially the 20th century, became the era for massive corporations, massive companies, being able to distribute themselves well, coordinate well, and dominate industries. Well, what we see in that era is that it's not necessarily a very human era. It's not necessarily an era in which everybody can find their niche, enjoy themselves, make a good living, and express their creativity. In a world where we have smart contracts running organizations, maybe even companies, maybe structures, and we see that right now, there might be more room and space for people to do what they want to do and be human. I know that's just a fraction of Web 3.0, and probably everybody has their own definition of Web 3.0, but that's one area I'm interested in.
Great. All right. We're going to wrap things up, but we ask everybody this question, John. What is Bitcoin's price on December 31, 2021?
The answer is I don't know. I am the longer answer is I am interested in what's happening in El Salvador. That hasn't really hit the mainstream there. And I think that the wallet technology that they use will be really, really critical for them to be able to transact cheaply, quickly. I know that there is an algorithm change coming for Bitcoin, which will reduce costs and allow to bundle transactions, other things like that. I see Bitcoin continue to trend up, but I'm more bullish long-term on Ethereum. Simply because I see Ethereum powering smart contracts. I see Ethereum powering Web 3.0. I see actual uses. It's deflationary now, so we're burning Ethereum, and there's a protocol change coming up so that it'll burn less CPU time and be greener and more friendly to the planet, and potentially cheaper then as well to be able to maintain and grow the Ethereum infrastructure. So most of when I keep crypto in crypto, most of what I keep is in Ethereum, a little bit in Bitcoin, and then bits and pieces and other little bits and things as I dabble a little bit here and there.
Yeah, you're going to have the Bitcoin maximalist flaming you. But I'm just asking for an estimate. What do you think? Just a guess.
Okay, so you still want one, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I couldn't baffle you with bullshit there. That didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we at right now? Tell me the number. I haven't checked today. Say again?
We're right around 49,000 right now.
49. I'm going to go 59. 59.9.
All right. So you went upward. Got it. Okay. Thanks, John.
But don't you have to reciprocate? I mean, like, what's your guess? You've got like 10 steps ahead of me here because you've asked this question like 50 people. What's your guess?
We got a huge range though, anywhere from 30 to 100. So if I average all that out, I'm looking at 65,000.
Okay, but if you're not averaging out and you're giving it your actual best guess, what are you saying?
I think there's a few things happening by the end of this year. I would be right around 55.
Okay. Right. So up a
now
little,
not too dangerous.
Okay.
Amanda, we got to get Amanda's.
I'm gonna do 72,000.
Wow.
72. Okay.
Let's check back in
good
December.
For you. Guys, usually I'm asking the question so that I'm happy to be able to ask a couple here.
I like it.
All right, John. Thanks again.
Yeah, John.
Appreciate
thank you so much.